You can get livestock, what they call livestock guardian dogs, who are actually trained for predator control and to protect the birds. We don't have them on our farm, but we do have a dog who's helpful to a certain extent. But
how do you free range the chickens?
have I seen a rooster protect the chickens? Absolutely. Absolutely. They're generally, a good rooster will be the first to die. He'll give his life for his girls, no question about it.
How do you free range the chickens in the winter time?
How do I free range the chickens in the winter?
Yeah.
With great difficulty, because we're up on the hill in Forestville. You may, if you listen to weather reports in the wintertime, they'll say increased precipitation at higher elevations. That's us. We'll have many feet of snow. What we do is we bring all of our coops are hauled in. Our coops are on skids that we haul around the pastures with our tractor. In the wintertime, they're all pulled into 2 areas, and we kind of have them kind of like a little wagon train, so that in an area, we actually shovel the snow around the coops so that they can go outdoors. And because as an organic farm, we have to provide outdoor access to our animals year-round. We open the doors. They can choose whether they want to come out that day. Some do, some don't.
Kind of like groundhogs in February 2nd.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Share, no problem.
So the question was, what would be the minimum amount of work and materials, equipment and materials needed to have like a small backyard farm, right? Okay, so you would need something to house your animals in. And if you only had 3 chickens, if you provided 5 square feet of space, you could probably get away with something pretty small. You know, you would need something like a coop. You would need a feeder, a waterer. In the wintertime, you need something to keep the water from freezing. You'd need bedding material. I'll tell you, chickens are not a small flock of chickens, not like what we've got, but a small flock of chickens for your backyard. It's not a real labor-intensive prospect. You need to feed them and water them. You need to ensure they're safe. So if you let them outside to roam around in the yard, somebody's got to come lock them up at night so that the raccoons don't get them or the owls or whatever.
Do they need to be like in a fenced-in area too?
It can be.
Can be.
If your neighbors like them, they'll go over there and eat your stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll always go back to their...
Yes, once they bonded to their coop, they will always come home to roost.
We've had that problem before. Move the coop.
Yeah.
The next coop that's closest is where the coop was. They'll go to that because
Yeah. They have an amazing internal GPS system. We'll move the bird's coop, and that night they'll be standing on the spot where their coop was in the day before. They know where home is, and they will return there daily, and we have to go kind of herd them. You know, your coop's been moved 10 feet away. But it is really amazing to me that they have this very solid internal GPS system. Yeah.
You have trouble with coyotes on that way?
Interestingly, we don't have, but we have not had coyote problems. We have had problems with owls. We've had problems with raccoons. We've had problems with hawks. What else? Fox. Oh yes, the mink. The mink that those of you who follow our Facebook page or are on our email list know we had a big problem this winter with mink. We have in the past had a mink that came through every year the 3rd week in November. He would come through, he might take 1 chicken and then he'd move on, migrating to what I believe was his winter breeding grounds. This year he didn't show up till the middle of December and he decided to stay. Moved into the barn and was just picking them off. So it was a painful stressful time for us. We lost quite a few birds. We lost all the ducks we had at that time. He seemed to be particularly
Out of one day.
out of one day. Yeah, they're very destructive. I lost my entire flock to a mink, so I have a personal grievance against a mink.
Question to that.
Yes.
Was wondering, I've been told that in Fredonia, the ordinance, or the village of Fredonia, the ordinance is you can have up to 2 chickens, but I don't know if anyone aware of that.
I am not aware of that.
I don't know.
I think you would need to check with the Fredonia zoning board because to my knowledge, Fredonia does not allow chickens. I know Jamestown has changed its ordinance. Buffalo has changed its ordinance. Amherst has changed its ordinance. A number of communities have changed theirs. I have a customer who's actively working in Faulkner to change theirs. Some communities are more amenable to having that discussion than others. But I say go for it. Go for it. Ask.
If there isn't one, you can be a point person.
Yes, talk to the landlord first. I know a number of people in Fredonia who would love to have chickens.
There's actually a city in Europe, Denmark was it? That are requiring households to have chickens. They provide them because they're in Denmark, I believe, because they reduce household waste so much. There's that much less going to the landfill, and people are getting fresh eggs.
Yeah. If you think about all the excess, the food left over on your plate at the end of a meal, or people feed them their food waste, it can go a long ways.
They love apples, apple peelings. Oh,
Oh,
my.
boy. Yeah.
Like crack cocaine for chickens, throw them out there.
Yes.
During World War II, we had chickens because my mother called the police department and said, can I have them? Because there was no meat.
Right.
And the police chief was very nice. He said, yes, you can, Mrs. Thompson. Well, I won't have any roosters. He said, you'd better. Now, do they still keep them warm with light bulbs? That's what they did.
We don't heat our coops. The chickens provide the heat. We also use a what's called a deep litter method. In our coops, you keep piling on shavings and stirring up the bedding, and it creates a heat on its own, their own heat. And the birds all snuggle up tight together in the wintertime and keep each other warm. The only thing we provide them in the wintertime is a heated pan to keep the water from freezing in the waters.
Things have changed. Years ago.
Now, the light bulb, we do provide lights in the wintertime so that our birds continue to lay. Because if we don't put them on lights, they all stop laying.
About August, they decide it's time for vacation.
Yeah, a hen needs about 12 to 14 hours of daylight in order to produce an egg. So once those light levels get below 14 hours a day, they start slowing down and they'll come to a complete stop. So
Most breeds.
most breeds will. We had one coop last fall when there was a lot of rain, and we couldn't get our coops pulled in because the fields were all muddy. And so we had one coop that was way out there, and we couldn't get extension cords out there to get lights, and so those girls they shut down the 1st of October, and they didn't start laying again until February. So,
Really?
Yeah.
So that's preservation.
For them it is. It gives their systems an opportunity to rest. And some of that, is the theory is that that's healthy for the chicken to do. Certainly.
You ever saw your ducks?
Yes. We sell ducks, we sell goslings, we sell turkeys, we sell chickens. We sell older layers